Today we have Erin Burry speaking. She is a marketer, former technology journalist, and startup enthusiast. Erin is currently the managing director at 88, a creative communications agency based in Toronto that worked with consumer brands and technology companies, including Sony Pictures Television, Torstar, Yellow Pages, and PayPal. Erin was formerly the managing editor at startup publication BetaKit and the director of communications at Sprouter, which was acquired by Postmedia in 2011. Erin is a monthly columnist for the Financial Post and a tech commentator on CTV News, and has been featured in publications including The New York Times, Forbes, CNN, The Toronto Star, and Canadian Business. Erin was named one of Marketing Magazine's top 30 under 30, and her claim to fame is she's been retweeted by Oprah twice. Please welcome Erin Burry.
So I'm excited to be talking to a group of publishers today because I'm a very big book nerd, although I'm not necessarily a quality book nerd. I just finished Bachelor Nation, so yeah, and it was excellent. Highly recommend if you're a Bachelor fan. If not, maybe don't read it. But it's actually a very interesting history of the love reality television shows, so I enjoyed it. But I'm a big reader, and I think that chatbots specifically and messaging as a marketing medium hold a lot of opportunity for publishers. So while this presentation is about chatbots in general and how businesses across any industry can use them, because I'm a big reader and because I've seen folks like Wattpad use messaging in really interesting ways, I'll try to hopefully relate it back to where I see the opportunities for all of you folks. So, first things first, that's me. There is the retweet from Oprah, just in case you think I'm lying. And the 30 under 30 is an accolade that I'm very proud of, but unfortunately I'm now over 30, so I'm gunning for the 40 under 40. Still crossing my fingers for it. I run a marketing agency in the city, and we work with a lot of startups and tech companies. So we've worked with VC firms and startup accelerators and funded startups. And we do fun tech-forward campaigns. So we've built chatbots, we've done AR and VR campaigns, and we try to incorporate new technology into everything we do, which is how we actually got interested in chatbots specifically. So we were kind of brainstorming about what we could do for a fun campaign, and that ended up in us building TIFF Bought, which I'll take you through a case study about later, which was a chatbot for the Toronto International Film Festival that was very fun. So first I wanted to get a read on how many people in the room know what a chatbot is. Maybe hand up. Okay, that's good. Not a ton of beginners. So in this session, I'm going to kind of run through what a chatbot is, just for anyone who isn't familiar, talk a little bit about what led to the rise of chatbots and messaging as a medium for marketing, go through some 5 or 6 ways that I see businesses being able to take advantage of them, walk you through a few case studies, and then hopefully we can get into a little bit of Q&A since you all seem very energetic and I know you'll have some amazing questions. So for anyone who is uninitiated, a chatbot is a piece of software that's designed to mimic human conversation or simulate human conversation. Chatbots are often powered by AI, and machine learning, but they don't have to be. They can be as simple as a series of text inputs from a user that trigger a series of text outputs. So if you have ever donated money to a charity via text message and get an automated message back, that at its simplest form is a chatbot. And really, they can live in a variety of places. So they can live on SMS, on text message. You've probably, if you have interacted with them, you've used one on a live chat window on a business's website, or maybe on Facebook Messenger, or even Kik. We all look a little older than the Kik audience, but who knows? And really, chatbots are all about automating one-on-one interactions. They can eliminate the need for a human. They don't replace your human customer service teams or your human marketing teams, and I'll talk a little bit about that later. But really the value of chatbots is that they can help with the low-hanging fruit, with the questions that you get asked all the time. When is Bachelor Nation out? When will the Bachelor Nation sequel be out? When is my favorite author's next book coming out? And really I kind of learned about the value of chatbots by reading an article written by Kik's founder, Ted Livingston. So for anyone who doesn't know, Ted founded Kik, which is a messaging app for teenagers, so if you don't know about it, kudos, you probably don't have a teenager or interact with them much. And he wrote this article on Medium that described the experience of going to a Blue Jays game, something we can all identify with and will hopefully be doing soon in a few weeks when spring actually comes. And he wrote about, getting to the game and waiting in a huge lineup outside the stadium in the sweltering heat, and finally getting to your seat, 25 minutes later, and sitting down and realizing that you forgot to get a drink. terrible. I don't have a beer at the Jays game, I have wine, so let's use wine in this example. So he talked about the idea of instead of hailing down the guy who walks through the stands or schlepping back up to get a drink and waiting in line, what if you ordered a drink to your seat using a mobile app? So he said, what if there was a sticker on the seat in front of you that said, download the Rogers Center app to order a glass of wine to your seat right now. And so you'd pull out your phone, you would navigate to your app store, you would find that app in the app store, the Rogers Center app, you would download it, wait for it to download, open it up, they would ask you to create an account, you'd have to try your password 7 times because it needs numbers and special symbols and wingdings and all of that stuff. Then you would finally get into the app, it would ask you, how many drinks do you want, what section are you in, what seat are you in, what row are you in, what type of wine do you want. Then you'd have to pull out your wallet and enter your payment information, and after about 10 minutes, you'll have wine on the way to your seat, and you probably should have just hailed the guy down in the stands. He then contrasted that to using a bot instead. So imagine instead of downloading that app, there was a sticker on the seat in front of you that said, connect with the Rogers bot on Facebook Messenger to order a drink to your seat now. So you would open up your Facebook Messenger, just like you would search for a friend, you would search for Rogers bot, you would hit connect, and Rogers bot would say to you, hey, text me your row number, your seat number, how many drinks you want and what kind, and I'll have those on the way to you. So you write one simple text message, I want 2 glasses of Sauv Blanc to this seat number, this row number, this section number. And because Facebook has the ability to store your payment details, after what happened this week, I know we all don't trust Facebook very much with our data, but it can hold your payment information. Let's assume in this case you have your payment details stored. With one simple text message, you would have a drink on the way to your seat. And that kind of opened my eyes to the experience of using a native mobile app and the experience of using a chatbot and how it really just removes all of the friction involved with using a new app, and it also is on a platform that you're already used to using. So in this article, Ted called chatbots invisible apps, and I really like referring to them that way. He wrote in this article, this is an instant interaction, and it's something that only becomes possible with bots. There's no new app to download, no new account to create, and perhaps more importantly, no new user interface to learn. And that's really key when we think about our customers, our readers, our users. We want to interact with them in the places where they already live in a way that's comfortable for them to interact. So the next question, after we define what a bot is and maybe, illustrate why they're useful compared to apps, the question is, why are they so popular right now? Why are they having a moment in the last year or two? My first exposure to a chatbot was in 2009 when a chatbot called PoutineBot would retweet me on Twitter every time I mentioned the word poutine, which apparently in 2009 was quite often. I was under 30 then. And so they've been around for a while, just like VR has been around since the 70s, and it's only becoming popular now because the hardware is getting a lot cheaper, and we can now use a Google Cardboard to play VR games on our smartphone. Chatbots are similarly becoming more popular for a few reasons that have to do with availability, infrastructure, and the rise of messaging. So the first reason is just the decline in popularity of native mobile apps. How many of the companies in the room have a mobile app for your company? Okay, that's good. You can skip the whole native app thing and go straight to chatbots. I love it. But for people who do have native apps, they're expensive to build. And the gold rush is kind of over in terms of how much we're willing to download new apps and how much developers can actually make on them. So if you think about your smartphone, you probably have your home screen where you have all the useful apps, like your banking apps and your news apps and your social apps. But then you have all of those kind of single-use apps that live on like the screens of death that are like 5 or 6 in. And those are like the airline apps that you use once every 3 months when you travel, or conference apps that you might come here for a day, download, use, and then never use again. So people are less willing to download apps. The average American downloads just over 1 app per month, and a quarter of apps are abandoned after first use. And I would imagine that probably matches the behavior of everyone in this room. I see a lot of head nods. The second reason is the rise of messaging apps. So I'm sure we all use some combination of WhatsApp and Facebook Messenger, and we're not alone. These stats, by the way, are all from April 2017, only because that was when Facebook held its F8 conference, which is their annual developer conference where they release new products. So they might seem old, but this is the last time they've actually released stats around this stuff. But there's a combined 2.4 billion Facebook Messenger and WhatsApp users, and that was almost a year ago, so that number is probably a lot higher now. third reason is the rise of bot stores. So if you actually pull out your phone, I'll ask you to pull out your phone. Open your Facebook Messenger. And how many people have interacted with a bot on Facebook Messenger before? Okay, so for anyone who hasn't, navigate to your contact list, and there should be a search bar at the top. Do you see a search bar? So search Snap Travel. Snap Travel, S-N-A-P Travel. So you'll see that pop up. I'm going to talk about it in a little bit, but Snap Travel is kind of like an Expedia for Messenger. And if you actually interact with it, if you get bored of my session, you can also just spend time interacting with Snap Travel. But this illustrates the third reason that bots have become so popular. And that's just the rise of bot stores and how available they've become. So just like in 2007, Apple released its Apple App Store, and for the first time made it easy for developers to distribute apps and us to actually find them and download and interact with them. There are now bot stores on Facebook and Microsoft. So now you can go in and you can actually search for things like Snap Travel. And I'll talk a little bit about Snap Travel in a bit, but as you're sitting there, you can kind of see the experience of actually going through and talking to a chatbot, which I think kind of helps to illustrate my point as we go through this. And this is just a little bit of a timeline, but really what you need to know is last year was kind of that tipping point where it became really popular. And that happened at Facebook's F8 conference. They announced that they had launched this Discover tab where you could browse bots on Facebook, and they hit 100,000 bot developers building bots. And as of almost a year ago now, they had 100,000 bots on Facebook Messenger. So when they actually make their announcement this April, so only a few weeks away, we'll probably see this number a lot higher. And their bot development platform is growing 70% faster than the App Store. So people are building bots a lot more than they're building apps these days. It's easier to get them out. We're already used to messaging because we're using Facebook Messenger and WhatsApp, and not as many people are building native apps. So that's kind of the confluence of things that have led to the rise of chatbots and arguably the rise of messaging. You know, you might not be sold on the whole automation behind chatbots, but messaging as a way to communicate with our customers is only going to become more popular. And Recode said, part of the appeal of bots is that they simply automate things that companies are currently paying humans to do, which everyone loves, thinking that they're replaceable at some point, which brings me into the opportunity for marketers. So we've talked a bit about what bots are and the infrastructure that exists around them. Now I'm going to talk about a few of the ways that I think businesses can take advantage of bots and actually incorporate them into your marketing program as it stands right now. Here's the slide where I tell you that a lot of big brands are already using them. Does anyone know if any publishers are using chatbots in Canada? I haven't seen any examples of them, but you guys would know better than I would. And I think when you're thinking about the value of chatbots, this quote kind of sums it up really well. Sarah Marion is one of the few female venture capitalists in Canada. She talks a lot about the bot space and invests in that space. And she wrote in VentureBeat that chatbots enable brands to simultaneously reach millions of users while letting users choose inputs and engage in a personalized conversation relevant to their specific interests and demographics. And what I take away from that is that just like social media made it easy for the first time for us to interact with our customers one-to-one. So instead of a billboard, which was one-to-many, we were able to actually have individual conversations with each of our customers, which is how we all are able to complain about customer service and things that we don't like on Twitter very publicly. Chatbots actually allow you to do that, but at scale. So it's really time intensive if you're Rogers to run the Rogers Helps Twitter account and to have a ton of customer service agents manually monitoring that feed and sending tickets to each other and responding to them in real time. Chatbots allow you to do that process of responding to each person individually, but in a completely automated way, or in a hybrid way where the chatbot handles it up to a certain point and then a human takes over, and I'll talk a little bit about that. So the first and most natural place that I see us using chatbots is for customer service. And I would assume that most of the publishers in the room are probably B2B in that you're selling to folks like Amazon or bookstores, correct? Are you selling direct to customers as well? Head nods. A little bit? Okay. So this might be more relevant to those customers of yours who are actually marketing to the end consumer. But customer service is a really natural fit for chatbots. If you think about it, most companies have those low-hanging fruit questions that they get asked all the time. So for example, my dream bot is the Rogers bot because we all have those same questions. I want to pay my bill, how much is a travel pack, I want to add visual voicemail, and those things can be answered in an automated way or done in an automated way, and every business has those. Gartner predicts that 85% of customer interactions will be automated by 2020 or managed without a human. I hope all of those aren't the 1-800 numbers because I think we'll all go crazy sitting on the phone listening to those automated systems. I think a big chunk of those will be live chat on websites and chatbots through Facebook Messenger. And we've already seen companies like Capital One launching customer service bots to help their customers with the kind of low-hanging fruit, frequently asked questions that every business has. But this is my favorite example of, I don't know if it's customer service per se, but it's definitely in the service of customers. It's a chatbot that helps you fight parking tickets completely automatically. So this Facebook chatbot launched where you could actually send it a photo of your parking ticket, and it would automatically submit it and fight it on your behalf, which sounds crazy, and you're like, oh, that would never work. But it did. It had a 64% success rate with $4 million in tickets overturned. And they're now applying this same technology to helping people immigrate to Canada and navigate that system. So pretty cool idea to apply it to. And in this case, for you guys, I'm not sure that it would work in a B2B context on Facebook Messenger, but for all of your clients with things like Amazon, this is a great way to make sure that customers know when that book from their next author is launching and when their delivery is arriving. And I see a lot of automated messaging happening in the e-commerce space specifically, which is a place where books are very popular right now. The second way, and probably a way that you can use chatbots as publishers, regardless of whether you're interacting with the end consumer or not, is content. My dream bot after the Rogers bot would be the Netflix bot, because I think we all know the experience of opening up Netflix and being paralyzed, almost like standing in front of the wall at Blockbuster in the 90s, and just not knowing what to watch. And I kind of feel the same way when I go on Amazon and I'm looking for a new book, and you get a million recommendations, and you go down the hole of people who bought this also bought, and then you're looking at 25 books and you don't know which one to buy. So I think content recommendations are huge for chatbots. And we've seen this with folks like Videotron in Quebec. So they kind of built my version of the Netflix bot for their streaming service, which is called Chilico. And so you can kind of use it to ask, what was your top-rated documentary last month? Or what shows do you have that have The Rock, because he's the finest actor of our generation, arguably. The Bachelor and The Rock, I'm not painting myself in a very good light here. But I love this idea as well for publishers. I mean, we were talking to folks like Fox and Sony Pictures Television about creating bots for their content libraries. So for example, if they have 2,000 titles in their back library of movies and TV shows, they could serve up content based on the time of year. So leading up to the Oscars, they could make recommendations on Oscar winners in their catalog. Or they could, remind you that you are only on episode 5 of a specific season and help you kind of navigate that process. I see this working really well for publishers as well. So you guys have a huge catalog of books, and you're really able to say, okay, based on the fact that you read this author, here's another author in our library that we think you would love. Or we know based on your account or your interactions with us in the past, that you loved Bachelor Nation. Well, the author is coming out with another book and you should buy it. Or here's another book about reality television that you should think about purchasing. So surfacing things from your content library and helping people navigate it is a really natural use case, and one of the ones that I think could work the best for publishers. It's not just for video content. British Vogue has a chatbot. CNN was one of the earliest people to have a chatbot. So it works really well for news because, of course, you can get notifications and alerts whenever things happen. But I think it works really well for anyone who has a really large content library. And I think you guys could use it in really interesting ways. Maybe it's getting a special message from the author, or getting an excerpt, or allowing me to actually go through dialogue as if I'm talking to a character. I see a lot of opportunity for using them in creative ways for publishers. Shopping in e-commerce, so this is where there's a lot of opportunity for actually purchasing a book from Amazon or from Chapters Indigo or any other retailer. And we see this with a lot of retailers in the States. So Nordstrom launched a chatbot the Christmas before last, and they kept it going this Christmas that just passed. And basically it allowed you to navigate their catalog and get recommendations on gifts. So it would ask you, given unlimited money, where would this person vacation? And the person says, Bahamas, and they say, okay, based on that, here's a bunch of gift recommendations. And so you can kind of swipe through that carousel where the suitcases are. And the key part of this is, when you press purchase, you're not kicked off to Safari or to your mobile browser. They have a rich media page that opens within Facebook and allows you to complete that purchase within the Facebook Messenger ecosystem. So again, it's that really seamless experience for the user. And the thing that I thought was interesting about the Nordstrom one is that they kind of took this hybrid approach where they had an automated gift recommendation engine. But then if you didn't like any of those gifts, you could say, I want to speak to a rep and I want more gift recommendations. And then they would actually tag in a human Nordstrom agent who would then curate more gift suggestions for you. So you could see that working with publishers as well, where it says, you liked Bachelor Nation. Did you want to read Birth of a Nation? You're like, no, this is terrible. I want to talk to a human. And then a human could step in and actually recommend more books that you would like based on their human brain knowledge of context and what you might enjoy. American Eagle also launched a chatbot for gifts, but I thought what was interesting about their chatbot, and something to keep in mind if you are considering building one, is the personality of the chatbot. So Nordstrom's was very, they're targeting a different clientele, a little bit older, a little more disposable income, so their tone of voice in the chatbot was very, given unlimited money, where would this person vacation? Oh, the Bahamas, great, try this high-end suitcase. Whereas American Eagle says, hey girl, would this person like to treat yourself, hang with your BFF, go get your nails done together, and there's like a million emojis peppered in there. And I thought it was a great example of how your chatbot is really a personification of your brand. So if and when you create one, whether that's an author launching a chatbot, you as a publishing house, or for a specific title, the actual copy of the interactions, of the messages back and forth, should be a personification of your brand and should really match that brand tone, whether it's young teen or whether it's more Nordstrom and a little bit more refined. Chatbots are also great for offers and promotions. So whether it is, Heather's picks are on sale this week, or Amazon's Black Friday sale for books, or whether you're doing a book bundle of all of the top books of 2018 for Christmas gifts, a chatbot is a really great way to send those out. So I already mentioned Snap Travel. Snap Travel is actually based in Toronto. And they, as of last April at F8, had announced that they'd done $1 million in hotel bookings completely inside Messenger. So I would imagine that number is a lot higher now. But what's interesting is that they're actually able to give better deals on hotels. This is unrelated to why I think you should build a chatbot, but more why I think you should use Snap Travel. They have better hotel deals because they don't advertise them publicly. They only advertise them one-to-one. So if you ever want to book a hotel, check Snap Travel first, because their prices are often a lot lower than Expedia and some of the other sites. But if you're ever doing a sale, if Nordstrom was doing a sale on that same luggage and they know they've recommended it to you, once you install a chatbot in your Messenger list, just like your friends, it's on that contact list, and you can reach out to that person again. Now, that doesn't mean that we're going to send 1 million messages being like, this is on sale today, you should buy this book, it just came out. You have to be sparing, and you have to give the user the ability to set the inputs and the preferences for when they want to receive messages. Otherwise, it just becomes spam. But it's a great example of, if you know that someone has a favorite author and that you've asked them, give us your 5 favorite authors, or give us your favorite genres of books, or give us the 5 books that are your favorite that have never left your bookshelf, and you know that that author is releasing a new book, or you know that a title that they released that they wanted to read is on sale, that's a perfect example of how you can reach them with offers and promotions. Smart assistants are a big use case for chatbots. So we probably all got an Amazon Echo or an Echo Dot for Christmas, or a Google Home. And we're starting to see a lot of voice assistants becoming popular. Maybe listening to everything we say, maybe selling it to the government, who knows, we'll see. But smart assistants are pretty natural. We think about Samantha in the movie Her. We're not quite there yet. But we are seeing a lot of kind of concierge-style chatbots that are kind of helping you with things throughout their day. So Facebook had this Facebook M chatbot that actually recently shut down. I don't know if that's because it didn't work or they didn't want to invest in it. One of my favorite ones is called Zoom.ai, which is a Toronto-based company, and it allows you to have a smart assistant in your email that's completely automated. So if Michelle emails me and says, I want to have a meeting next week, my assistant will reply and say, Erin's available at these times, and schedule the calendar invitation. So if you don't have a personal assistant, maybe check out Zoom.ai. And we're seeing a lot of chatbots handle those kind of concierge-style services. Give me my morning news update. Book me a reservation on OpenTable at this restaurant. Tell me the sports scores from last night. Give me more context on the person that I'm meeting in an hour or two. So I'm not sure that this is the most natural use case, but I do love the idea of a book concierge, where it can, look at my preferences and tell me what I should buy for each of the person on my wish list, and tell me what I should be reading and give me preferences. One of my favorite chatbot examples for the publishing industry is Wattpad's Tap 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 chatbot thing, which isn't exactly a chatbot where I interact with it, but it's messaging story. Has anyone seen this Tap 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 thing? So it's basically stories told through text message conversations. So there was one about Harry Styles, I think, although I'm not a big One Direction fan, more The Rock. But it's really cool. It's kind of this idea of telling stories not through prose or narrative, but telling it through messages back and forth. And I could see something like that being really cool, where there's almost like a choose-your-own-adventure chatbot for a publisher, where you can message back and forth and the story goes in different ways based on how you interact with it. But anyways, smart assistants are definitely something to check out, and Zoom.ai is a good one for your personal inbox management. Ordering and notifications, this is a really simple one, especially for e-commerce publishers and other people. I've used them. I haven't used the MasterCard one, but it allows you to connect your PayPass and order from places like Subway and then go pick it up, similar to a Ritual app in Toronto. And then Uber, it allows you to order a car from your Facebook Messenger. And I actually really like the notification side of it. So when I traveled to South Africa a couple years ago, again, usually our habit would be we're traveling on a new airline we don't usually travel on. We download the mobile app. We use it for a day, and then we either delete it or it sits on our phone. In this case, KLM had a chatbot, and so I connected with that, and then I got notifications leading up to and after my flight. Hey, there's been a gate change. Check-in's now open, click here to check in. So it was a lot easier than having to download that mobile app. And in this case, notifications could work for when you're ordering a book, when a new author that you follow is coming out with a new book, all of those types of things. And finally, I think this is probably the biggest one for the publishers in the room, is marketing campaigns. Chatbots are still really early in the hype cycle, even though it feels like they're talked about a lot. Messaging as kind of a marketing medium is still early in the hype cycle. So I think there's a lot of opportunity for using chatbots in your marketing. So a couple examples. The movie Zootopia used a chatbot as part of their movie marketing program, where you could go on like a scavenger hunt within Facebook Messenger. The one on the right is from Kia, the car company. So they did a Super Bowl ad a couple years ago, and instead of just releasing it on YouTube like most people would do, they launched this Kia Bot chatbot, and you had to install or interact with the chatbot to get Melissa McCarthy's Kia Super Bowl commercial before anyone else. So there's no purpose for that bot. It doesn't actually do anything. It was just a marketing gimmick, but it got a ton of coverage in places like Ad Age and Ad Week, and most importantly, I think it positioned Kia as an adopter of new technology. And I think the publishing industry has obviously gone through a lot of changes in the last 10, 20 years, and so being positioned as an adopter of new technology and not someone who is late to the bandwagon is probably going to be really key for you in the next couple of years. So a couple case studies just to walk through some of the chatbots that I think have done a good job. Sephora was one of the first early adopters of chatbots for marketing. So they have a variety of different chatbots, and most of them are on Facebook Messenger or Kik, which is that kind of teen messaging app that I talked about earlier. So they launched one in 2016. They've launched a bunch more since then. And they do everything from allow you to chat back and forth with a customer or with the bot, about product recommendations. So, I have oily skin, what skin cream should I be using? But they also have this lipstick color match tool where I could take a photo of the purple in that name tag, and it would give me a list of all of the lipsticks that match that color. They also used it for product surveys. So that's another great way to use it for kind of getting a pulse check from your customers. So when they were launching new products or thinking about doing new things, they would survey all the people through their bots. And they also allowed you to make an in-store appointment to actually come in and meet with and get a makeover from a Sephora rep in-store. And they had a 40% completion rate on those surveys. They haven't released a ton of stats around the chatbot success. I think that's number one because they don't want to tip their hat to competitors about how well they're doing with it, but also just because it's kind of early and they probably don't have a lot of concrete stats at this point, or at least they haven't released them. The second bot that I really like, just simply because I think it's funny, is the Taco Bot, which was launched on Slack. And I think this is a great example, not only of a really funny marketing campaign that was very successful, but also of how your chatbot should be on the medium where your customers are. So in the case of Taco Bell, they know that their customers are young, hungry developers who are using Slack to talk to each other at startups. And so they launched their chatbot on Slack, and they allowed groups of people within a workplace to create a group taco order. They'd still have to go pick it up, so they didn't solve that last mile delivery piece, but kind of fun. They got coverage in Wired magazine and all of these tech publications. So when else is Taco Bell going to be in those publications? Typically they'd be in Restaurants Monthly. So I think it positions them as an early adopter of tech, someone who tries new things. And they've kept it in private beta. They haven't actually launched it to the public. So I don't know, again, if that's because no one's using it or just because they did it as a marketing gimmick and they don't care, but kind of fun. And then the one that we built, which is TIFF Bought. So if you are still on your phone, search for TIFF Bought on Facebook Messenger, and you can interact as I'm talking and see what TIFF Bought says. But we wanted to build a chatbot as a test, so we partnered up with TWG, which is a local development agency. So if you are considering building a bot, we can help you make it sound great and brand it and get some coverage around it, but TWG are the people who are actually building them, and they're the ones who can answer your development questions. So if you have any technical questions about bot building, send me a note. I'm happy to connect you. But this is TIFF Bot. This is what he looks like. And really the idea behind TIFF Bot came from people who aren't cinephiles and who had never been to TIFF feeling overwhelmed by the festival. There's so many movies to see. You don't really know how to navigate the schedule. So the idea behind TIFF Bot was that we would do the heavy lifting for you. We would search through the catalog and we would curate our top picks across the festival and also allow you to ask about logistical things like parking and when King Street is closed down and all of that kind of stuff. And we actually didn't get the permission of TIFF to build this. We just took all of the publicly available movie schedule data and we scraped it into our bot and built it on a platform called ChatFuel, which is almost like a WordPress for chatbots. So if you're considering building one, it's a lot cheaper to use that existing infrastructure than to build one from the ground up. And we bought filmbot.ca as a backup just in case TIFF sued us. But they didn't sue us, which was great. That's what's called a bot marker. So if you see one of those, it's almost like a QR code, but you can scan it on your phone and interact with it automatically. And again, we built it on ChatFuel, the WordPress for bots, and this is what TIFF Bot looked like in its conversation. So we had lots of funny GIFs, and we had a very self-aware tone. So people always ask, should I tell people that my bot is a bot? And my belief is always yes. I think it's a lot easier if you tell people, hey, you're chatting with Penguin Random House's automated concierge assistant, and I'm here to help you. If at any time you don't understand what I'm saying or you need help, type agent and we'll connect you with a human rep. That's a lot better experience than saying, hey, Susan, what book should I read? And Susan's like, I'm sorry, I did not understand you. Say that again, or press help. It's a lot less intuitive when you don't know that you're talking to a bot. So we were very upfront about it. We said, hey, you're chatting with TIFF Bot. I'm a robot film critic, and I'm here to help you navigate TIFF. So right from the beginning, people knew that it was a chatbot. And we asked things like, what kind of film would you like to see? As a robot film critic, I understand words like drama or comedy. And we actually didn't anticipate things like dramedy, so that also underscores the importance of testing a chatbot, because we saw, as we put it out into the world, that people had very different ideas of genres than we did. And then once you actually asked for one of those, it would give you a link to a movie trailer, a description of why we picked that movie, and it would click through to allow you to buy tickets for that movie. So the results of that, we launched it a few weeks before the festival, had about 9,000 people install it, earned just over 500,000 unpaid media impressions around the world. And again, TIFF called us, and instead of saying, how dare you, take that down immediately, they said, this is awesome, because we have a real challenge. We have all of the people that have been going to TIFF for 5 or 10 years. We have a challenge getting new people interested in TIFF and helping millennials engage with TIFF, much like I'm sure getting millennials interested in reading is probably a challenge for you outside of Bachelor Nation. But they actually said, can we become an official partner? So they partnered up with us, and they created this hidden gems category that kind of took some of the movies that may have been underappreciated and pulled them into a category. And they put some of their marketing muscle behind it as well. And we launched it again with them this past festival season with a whole range of new content about the festival. So just a really cool way, I think, to showcase how a chatbot can be used, not only to provide value, but also to connect with a new demographic that you might not have already connected with. So the big question is, how do you actually build a bot? And there's kind of a few ways. You can hire a developer to build one from the ground up. If you're a larger company, when we were talking to 20th Century Fox, that's the only route that they would ever go, because they want to own the infrastructure, and they don't want to rely on a third-party platform like Chatfuel, knowing that if it shuts down, their bot also shuts down. You can use built-in tools from Facebook or Microsoft. They have kind of bot builders. Those, I would say, are better for the small business on the corner, like the nail salon that has the same 10 questions all the time and can make one very simply. Or I think the best option, especially if you just want to test it, is using something like a Chatfuel. If you're using one, or if you want to build one for customer service, there's a company in Toronto called ada.support, ada.support, and they actually allow you to build a customer service chatbot without any coding. So they have kind of a SaaS platform where you just plug in your frequently asked questions and the answers that you want to go out, and you pay a monthly subscription fee based on how many messages you're sending. So if you want to use it just for customer service, definitely check that out. Chatfuel, you can really use it for any number of purposes. So should you build a bot? Well, I would build one if you want to improve your customer service, and especially if you have those low-hanging fruit, frequently asked questions that you're always getting. If you have a brand app, it doesn't sound like a lot of you do, but I talked to a lot of folks who spent a lot of money, TIFF included, on building a native app, and they're desperately trying to get people to use it so they can justify the spend that went into it. If you're selling a product, like a book, because it's very easy to have people navigate, find products, and purchase them right within Facebook Messenger's ecosystem. If you want to position your brand as bleeding edge, just like Taco Bell, if you have a rich data set, which you do in this case as publishers, authors, word count, genres, reviews, you have a ton of data points just like Netflix does, so it makes a ton of sense for you guys. Or if you want to easily guide people through your product or service. So Slack has a chatbot that actually guides you through using the tool, so it's actually good for product onboarding as well, which I don't necessarily think applies here, but you never know. And how do you make it successful? Well, first I think you have to make sure it actually solves a consumer problem. Chatbots, are very hyped up right now, but are you building one that's actually solving a problem, helping me find a book that I want, keeping me informed on titles from my favorite authors, or keeping track of my e-commerce order when it's on the way to me. If it's not, if it's just like KiaBot and you just want to use it for fun marketing purposes, make it shareable and engaging. TIFF Bot did solve a problem because people found it overwhelming to navigate TIFF, but he was also just fun to talk to. And the Rolling Stone film critic tweeted about whether we would take his job, TIFF Bot would take his job. He hasn't yet, but you never know. Make it intuitive. I think this is the biggest challenge for anyone in the room who has interacted with a chatbot. I would imagine that it wasn't always a great experience. It was maybe stilted, or it was like calling that 1-800 number and realizing that you're pressing 0 furiously to get to a human agent. That can be the experience of talking to chatbots today. So test it. Have your friends and family or your coworkers interact with it. See what people are putting into it, and make sure you have that option of typing help or tagging in a human agent at some point if they're having a challenge. Make sure it has a personality that matches your brand, whether it's American Eagle and it's young and fun and uses emojis, or whether it's Nordstrom and it's a little bit more refined. Choose the right medium. If you're a B2B company, you probably want that, live chat window on your website. If you're Sephora or American Eagle, you're probably looking to a younger tool like Kik. And then finally, test those inputs so it's not frustrating. Because you don't want it to be like Seinfeld, where he's saying, why don't you just tell me the name of the movie you selected? I always know by laughs if this is a young audience or an older audience, so this is a young audience. Or my jokes aren't funny. Finally, I just wanted to highlight the risk of bots gone rogue. So the biggest risk for bots is them being frustrating, but these are kind of a couple, not fun for the people who went through them, but fun for us, examples of bots gone rogue. The first one is from Microsoft. So they released a bot called Tay, which was artificially intelligent and learned as it interacted with people. And the goal was that they would launch this and it would help make their AI engine smarter and show off their work in AI and chatbots. But unfortunately, because it was artificially intelligent and because people are jerks, people started tweeting really mean stuff to it, and then you had this artificially intelligent chatbot tweeting things like, we're going to build a wall and Mexico is going to pay for it. And Microsoft had a bit of a PR snafu on their hands. The one on the right is Coca-Cola. They had a happiness bot, and if you tweeted negative things at it, or negative things in general, it would reply to you and turn your negative tweet into a fun balloon animal. Don't know why they thought it was a good idea, but it was all fun and games until somebody figured out they were doing this and tweeted every line of Hitler's book Mein Kampf to Coke, and they unwittingly tweeted the entire book out in balloon animals. Also a bit of a PR snafu. So the takeaway from these isn't don't build a bot, it's maybe just test it and remember that people are jerks. So the bottom line, because I know I'm getting the umbrella to get off stage, is a lot of people ask whether bots are just hype or whether they're actually something we should be paying attention to. And I don't know the answer to whether bots will be as ubiquitous as a phone number in the 80s or a website in the 90s or an app in the 2000s. But I do know that messaging, whether it's human messaging or a chatbot, is going to be the primary way that consumers interact with your business in the next few years. So at least worth taking this away today, evaluating it, and getting a good hotel deal on Snap Travel in the process. So thanks so much for listening and enjoy the rest of your day.